Have you ever done everything right for someone? Showed up, gave your time, your energy, your loyalty, and somehow ended up being the one they appreciated the least? Not the one they called first. Not the one they thought about. Just there, like furniture. And the worst part is not that it happened. The worst part is that you let it happen. Because you thought being reliable meant being valued. It does not. And science can explain exactly why. Welcome to People Decoded, where we pull back the curtain on human behavior using real science. No fluff, no self-help platitudes, just the uncomfortable truth about why people do what they do. Today, we are going deep on one of the most painful social experiences there is. Why the people you do the most for are often the ones who appreciate you the least. And what is actually happening in their psychology when they take you for granted. Here is where it starts. In psychology, there is a concept called hedonic adaptation. It is the brain's ability to get used to anything, good or bad. Over time, the brain stops registering things that are constant and predictable. It reserves its attention for things that are new, uncertain, or changing. This is why a raise at work feels incredible for about 2 weeks before it just becomes your salary. Why a new house feels exciting until it becomes just where you live. Why you stop noticing the sound of traffic outside your window after a few days. The brain is not wired to appreciate what stays the same. It is wired to notice what changes. And if you are someone who is always there, always reliable, always giving, you have just become background noise. Not because you are not valuable, but because your value has become invisible through repetition. Now here is where it gets more uncomfortable. There is a well-documented psychological phenomenon called the pratfall effect. Discovered by psychologist Elliot Aronson in 1966, it found that people who appear too competent, too reliable, too perfect are actually rated as less likable over time than people who occasionally mess up or show vulnerability. The logic is counterintuitive but consistent. When someone is always available, always capable, always giving, the brain begins to unconsciously discount them. They become expected, predictable, safe, and safe does not trigger gratitude. Safe triggers assumption. This is why the person who cancels plans occasionally, who says no sometimes, who is not always available, is often chased harder and valued more than the person who never lets anyone down. Being dependable trained the people around you to depend on you. And dependence without awareness is just another word for being taken for granted. Now let us talk about what is happening on their side. When someone takes you for granted, they are not doing it consciously. They are not sitting in a room thinking about how little they appreciate you. What is happening is far more automatic than that. Psychologists call it the endowment effect. People assign higher value to things they had to work for, earn, or wait for, and lower value to things that were freely given. Think about that. The easier you made it for someone to have you in their life, the less their brain registers your presence as something worth protecting. This is not a character flaw in them. It is a cognitive bias baked into human psychology. We are built to take the path of least resistance. And if someone is always there, always easy, always giving, the brain files them under guaranteed and moves its attention elsewhere. The people who get appreciated are the ones who created just enough uncertainty that the brain never fully settled into taking them for granted. There is one more mechanism at work here that almost nobody talks about. In relationships of all kinds, romantic, platonic, professional, there is something called the reciprocity norm. The unspoken social contract that says when someone gives, the other person gives back. But here is what breaks down over time. When one person consistently gives more than the other, the recipient begins to feel something psychologists call entitlement creep. The giving stops feeling like a gift and starts feeling like a given, like something they are owed rather than something they received. And once that shift happens, gratitude disappears almost entirely. Because you cannot feel grateful for something you believe you deserve. This is one of the cruelest dynamics in human relationships. The more consistently kind and giving you are, the more the other person begins to feel entitled to that kindness. And the moment you stop or even slow down, they experience it not as a loss but as a betrayal. You became the standard. And standards do not get thanked. they just get expected. So what do you actually do with all of this? First, understand that being taken for granted is almost never about your worth. It is about predictability. The brain does not devalue you as a person. It simply stops registering you as a variable, and variables are what get attention. Second, introduce some healthy friction. This does not mean playing games or being cruel. It means being honest about your limits. Saying no occasionally. Not being available every single time. Not because you are punishing anyone, but because boundaries are the mechanism through which other people are forced to actively choose you rather than passively rely on you. Third, stop rewarding the behavior that hurts you. Every time you show up for someone who does not show up for you, you teach them that the imbalance is acceptable. You are not being kind when you do that. You are being self-erasing. Fourth, pay attention to who notices when you pull back. When you become less available, the people who genuinely value you will reach out. They will ask if you are okay. They will make an effort. The people who were taking you for granted will simply move on to the next easy source of what they need. That information is painful, but it is one of the most clarifying things you will ever learn about the people in your life. Fifth, recognize that your value was never the problem. The problem was that you were giving it away without a filter. Unconditional availability is not love. It is not loyalty. It is the quiet erosion of your own standing in every relationship you have. The people who are most taken for granted are almost always the most genuinely caring people in any room. They give, because it is their nature. And that nature gets exploited not out of malice, but out of the simple, unconscious logic of human psychology. Understanding that does not make it hurt less. But it does make it make sense. And when things make sense, you can change them. If this decoded something for you, subscribe. Every week we go deeper into the psychology of how people behave, and why understanding it changes everything. Until next time, stay curious,